Hey guys, Mark Allen, BHSpringSolutions LLC and BHSpringSolutions.com, and this is an extended session of High Power University, and also a bit about the High Power Barrel. And I'll let you know up front, not that any of this information is necessarily something that you're going to turn around and use today or tomorrow, but it's interesting information that we've learned over the past several years, and we wanted to share it. And what I've got here laid out on the table, this video also goes along with some final quality control video demonstration that we're doing for the BHSpringSolutions Advanced Barrel for high power pistols. But one of the things that we also do for final quality control are a couple of critical tolerance checks. And I'm going to back this up just a second and explain what is a tolerance. And I'm speaking specifically to tolerances that are expressed in a blueprint. A tolerance represents the total amount a dimension may vary. And it's basically defined as the difference between the upper and lower limits. So just as an example, you might have a allowable diameter dimension of an exterior of a high power barrel, then possibly that allowable tolerance might be plus or minus, say, 0.003 of an inch. In other words, what that's saying is that anything that is the exact number to the thousandths or the hundredths of a millimeter or thousandths of an inch, it can be plus or minus 0.002 or 0.003 or 0.004, and it is still within spec. It's still, going to do what it needs to do. The idea of tolerances is primarily because even in 2020, modern machinery cannot get things always right down to the thousandths of an inch or the hundredths of a millimeter. In other words, you've got to allow some margin. You have to have a tolerance for an upper and a lower limit of what that can be. Here's one really good example, and this is one that I don't think I've ever heard anyone explain about the high power until BHSpringSolutions, and it's just one that we happen to come to appreciate because we now manufacture the BH Advanced Barrel for high power pistols. But if you take a look here in your high power, this area right here, and I'm talking about the area, the distance in the frame side to side in this area, basically where the barrel cam lug seats into that area. That fit literally is like a watch. This is not the 1911 anymore. This is really made to function like a Swiss watch, if you will. And that tolerance here in the frame and the tolerance here on the barrel cam lug is just incredible in terms of how tight that must be. In other words, this dimension here, side to side, is going to have an upper and a lower limit. The upper and lower limit of the barrel cam lug on the lateral sides of it, those must be in sync with each other, because if they're not, this barrel's not going to fit. And where I'm going with this is, especially the Browning high powers, the polished blued. This is a polished blued frame. These are known for being just so refined, so polished, so beautiful. And then you start looking internally at some features like the barrel cam lug. And I'm going to try to show this. What I'm keying in on here is these machining marks. If we can hopefully get a focus at some point on the camera of those. This is a very, very early high power pistol barrel, and if it shows up, the machining marks are much more exaggerated in this old barrel. We can assume that their machining tooling was not as advanced in the early days. As the high power barrels went on, this is one from 2003, we still see the machining marks here. And if you have a Browning high power or another high power, take a look at the barrel cam lug, and you're going to see visible machining marks. Now, this has been a point of a little bit of annoyance. Here's an Arcus 94 barrel, and you can see very, very pronounced there on the barrel cam lug. One from Argentina. This is out of an FM Detective. Boy, they really had tooling chatter, actually, is what you'd call that. They had going on. They needed to change their tool, maybe. But lots and lots of machining marks there. We don't see it quite as much in the Tissos barrel cam lug. You've got machining marks that are running this direction on both sides, but they're a little more faint in the Tissos barrel. Anyway, where I'm going with that is, I, for one, never understood, well, my goodness, you've got this, like here, this 2003 FN barrel. It's a little browned or scorched brown looking here. That's because this barrel has numerous times had 200 consecutive rounds put through it without cooling, and it does tend to get them a little hot. And but even this 2003 barrel, it came very finely polished, really all over the barrel, very fine polishing work. And then you've got this barrel cam lug with these ugly machining marks, and I never really understood why. Well, when we started making our own barrels, I quickly got educated as to the why. And the reason is because this tolerance, when it's expressed on a blueprint, and I'm talking about that exact tolerance right there, where this barrel cam lug must seat perfectly inside the frame area, and it's more advantageous if it's tighter and has less movement, and so that's a factor. And at the same time, you don't want it to have too much movement, and so you don't want it too tight or too loose. Either way is not a good thing. So consequently, the allowable tolerance is here, and the allowable tolerance here is just insane. In fact, when we first presented EFK Fire Dragon, our expectations for the BH Advanced Barrel for high power, they really had to have a meeting and decide how were they going to fit the tight tolerance that is required for the BH Advanced Barrel for high power. And just one of many all over this barrel, one of those extremely tight tolerances is this area right here. You're going to notice you don't see the machining marks on the Advanced Barrel for high power. What you do see is a matte stainless finish on both sides, but you're not going to be seeing any machining marks. EFK Fire Dragon, one of the premier in over 30 years producing pistol barrels in the United States, what we found that their expertise in this area might be just the top of the class, maybe worldwide, when it comes to producing a blueprint. And here's what I want to explain to you is, when we first presented this barrel and the specs to EFK Fire Dragon, their first response was, "Are you serious about?" And I'm not going to go into the exact tolerances and the dimensions requirements and things like that, but their response was, "Are you serious?" And it was the expectation. What they were specifically talking about was the expectation of this dimension right here. And I'm even going to show it to you. Anybody who has one of our barrels can do this with a caliper. But there you see the number, and this is expressed in inches. So 272 thousandths is the number there. So you would think of a tolerance then, if it is 271, as it says right here, you might think a tolerance of 0.270 to 0.272, just as an example, and that's not the actual numbers, but as an example, 0.270 to 0.272. What we came to learn and came to understand was this is such a close tolerance that is required by the high power design. The reason that you see these machining marks here is because, quite literally, if these machining marks were completely polished away, this barrel would no longer be within specs. It would no longer meet the tolerance requirements of the upper and lower limits of the dimension. So these machining marks, quite literally, were left on your barrel of your FN, Browning, or anybody else's that you've got. These were left here specifically because leaving them there means that the barrel cam lug and the lateral measurement of it is within specs. Now, we're going to take a quick look and see how tight and how consistent has this been over the years. This is one of the very early, serial number 07459, so we might think of among the first 7,500 high powers ever made. We'll go ahead and we'll grab a quick measurement on that, and we're getting about the 270, 271. I've got a 1989 FN Browning barrel, and we're going to take a look at the cam lug on that one. That one comes in at 0.271. For those of you who know what a thousandth of an inch is when it's a machined part, the consistency I'm showing you here is insane. That one there measures 271. That's a 2003 FN Browning high power barrel. Here's an Arcus Bulgaria barrel. We'll take a look at that one. That one there, it comes in at 0.271. And then we've got the one from Argentina. And I have to tell you, I didn't actually even caliper these before I started videoing. So some of this, here's one from Argentina, 0.271. Wow. To the thousandths of an inch is insane kind of consistency. And we're looking now here at three different generations of FN Browning high powers, Arcus, FM. What I'm telling you is this is an important measurement. You see how consistently all of these different barrels hit that number and how tight it was. That's not to say that a 0.270 or a 0.269 or a 0.272 or 0.273 is not within specs. I'm not saying that. What I'm pointing to you here is how seriously the different manufacturers have taken this number. Last one here I've got is a Tissos Barrel. This is a reverse engineered barrel. We do know that. And that one comes in at 0.266. And I can confirm to you that that one is completely not within any kind of original tolerances allowed by the high power design originally. But the point I was making with this is, oh, and one other point. There's one high power, the FEGs out of Hungary. We have found sometimes they hit this tolerance here, and the BH or other high power barrel will just slide right in like you see it on this FN frame, and sometimes they just don't fit. In the event you have an FEG and it does not, and you have one of our barrels and you want to use it in your FEG, what you want to do is you want to get a BH polishing kit with polishing bobs and polishing compounds, and you're going to polish this area that is matte stainless finished on both sides. And literally this is a polishing, fitting kind of adventure, and it's not difficult. A Dremel tool, polishing bobs and polishing compounds, and you're going to systematically go this side, turn around, go this side about the same amount of time, come back to this side, do both equally, and check the fit. In when it slides into your FEG, you're finished. This part of the high power barrel that we now have at BH Spring Solutions, I point this out because It is just incredibly gratifying to BH Spring Solutions to work with a manufacturer in the United States like EFK Fire Dragon, who has the sophisticated machinery. And as you saw, I calipered our barrel. I compared it with the other barrels we have here on the table, and it does not have machining marks, the gaudy, ugly machining marks, and it hits the mark as far as the dimension compared to other barrels. And it was done, again, without leaving the ugliness of the machining marks. And this matte stainless finish, this is easily polished. And it takes to polishing very easily if you need to fit this barrel to, for example, an FEG. Now, on the other hand, if you have something other than an FEG and you have one of our barrels, you can polish pretty much. You always want to remember, polish literally means removing metal at some level, to some degree. And so you want to just bear in mind this area, if you have a nice drop-in fit, which you're going to have as much as you would with any of these barrels in this location of the barrel cam lug in the frame, you don't need to be polishing this. You don't have anything to gain from polishing it. You should leave that alone. If you want to polish the exterior here, make your pistol aesthetically look much, much better, and anywhere else, that's fine. By the way, in the unlikely event you would need any final fitting of anything having to do with your barrel lugs here, your polish points are between the barrel lugs. Those are also matte stainless finished, but we've heard of no one needing to do that ever with the BH Spring Solutions Advanced Barrel. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Mark Allen, BH Spring Solutions LLC and BHSpringSolutions.com.